Let me ask you something that no doctor ever did in my 39 years of medical practice. When was the last time you gave your hips a second thought? Most men over 60 don't pad. And I get it. When you're dealing with high blood pressure, stiff joints, or fading energy, your hips are the last thing on your mind. But what if I told you that your hipsies, your hips are the secret traffic controller of your circulation? It's not just about walking better or avoiding back pain. There's something much more vital happening deep within your pelvis. You see, over the past 4 decades, I've sat beside hundreds of older men tired, frustrated, and slowly giving up on the idea of ever feeling strong again. And what I've noticed is this. Most of them carry tension in their hips like a clogged drainpipe. Their blood flow slows, their nerves misfire, and their masculinity both physically and mentally starts to dim. But the good news? It doesn't take an hour in the gym or a handful of pills to reverse this trend. All it takes is 5 minutes. One daily stretch that releases the tension from your hips, improves your lower body blood flow, and wakes up the natural systems that keep your energy, hormones, and even memory sharper. If you're over 60 and you've felt colder feet, stiffer knees, or a nagging fatigue that just won't go away, this could be the missing piece no one's ever told you about. So stay with me. I'll explain why this happens only after 60, what goes wrong if we ignore it, and how this simple stretch can be your first step toward reclaiming circulation, vitality, and confidence without needing a single prescription. Let me take you back to a quiet Thursday afternoon, sometime last winter. I was sitting with a patient named Harold, 73 years old, a retired truck driver from Ohio. Rugged hands, slow gait, and that proud but quiet demeanor older men often carry. He came to see me because of constant fatigue, not just tiredness, mind you. He said it felt like his body was in slow motion. He'd already done the rounds: cardiologist, endocrinologist, neurologist. Nothing wrong on paper, but Harold knew something was off, and to be honest, I did too. I asked him a question no one else had asked. Do you stretch your hips? He looked at me like I'd asked if he did ballet. See, most men his age never think twice about their hips, but here's the catch. The hips aren't just joints that help us walk. They're crossroads, a meeting point for nerves, blood vessels, and muscles that serve your entire lower body. When they get tight, everything downstream your legs, your circulation, even your digestion can suffer. I call this the forgotten gait. After 60, when testosterone dips, muscle tone declines, and activity drops, that gate can get jammed shut without us even realizing it. The result? Blood doesn't flow as freely. Nerves misfire, tissues don't get the oxygen they need, and men start feeling like Harold, drained, sluggish, not quite themselves. It creeps in quietly. First, it's harder to get up from a chair. Then your feet are always cold. Then comes the brain fog, the dips in libido, the morning stiffness. All while the body screams for space but doesn't get it. Here's what I always tell my patients. Aging isn't what slows us down. Stagnation does. And the hips, they're ground zero for that stagnation. So I asked Harold to do one thing, spend 5 minutes each morning doing a very specific stretch to open his hips. That was it. Nothing fancy, no gym membership, no supplements, just one movement. 3 weeks later, he came back grinning, said he was waking up with more energy, felt steadier. Even his wife noticed he wasn't falling asleep in his recliner at 6 p.m. Now, I'm not claiming this one stretch will solve everything, but I've seen enough over nearly 4 decades to know that sometimes the simplest acts can shift everything else into motion. And for men over 60, the path to better circulation, stronger movement, and clearer thinking might just begin in a place most of us never think to look: the hips. So let me ask you, when was the last time you gave your hips a second thought? Could it be that what you've been blaming on age is really just a locked gate waiting to be opened? In the next part, I'll show you exactly why this hidden issue often shows up after 60 and what your body has been trying to tell you all along. Now, you might be asking, why does this tightness, this sluggishness in circulation, this creeping fatigue suddenly appear after you hit 60? I've heard that question more times than I can count, and I'll tell you what I always tell my patients. It didn't happen overnight, but now your body's finally letting you know. You see, there's a silent shift that begins in a man's body around his late 50s. It's not dramatic like a car breaking down. It's more like a dimming light bulb, barely noticeable at first, until one day you realize the whole room looks darker. Biologically speaking, a few things happen all at once. First, testosterone declines, slowly but steadily. And testosterone isn't just about sex drive. It's crucial for maintaining muscle tone, red blood cell production, and overall vitality. When levels drop, muscles including the ones around your hips start to shrink and tighten. You lose the spring in your step, quite literally. Second, your fascia, that web-like connective tissue around your muscles, starts to dry out and stiffen with age. Imagine a sponge left out too long. That's your fascia after 60. It becomes less elastic, less forgiving. Movements that once felt fluid now feel forced, especially in the hips and pelvis, where so many important pathways intersect. And then there's circulation itself. After 60, arteries tend to harden, veins lose elasticity, and blood moves with less force. Combine that with sitting too much, especially in retirement, and your pelvic region becomes a bottleneck. Blood pools, nerves get compressed. You might feel tingling in your toes, cold feet in the middle of July, or that slow, dragging heaviness in your thighs. But here's something most doctors don't talk about. Emotional tension lives in the hips too. I know that might sound a little out there, but after 39 years, I can tell you it's real. I've met veterans who stored years of tension in their hips, widowers who unconsciously held grief in their posture, men who hadn't stretched their body sore, their emotions in decades. Your hips, in many ways, are like a second heart, not in a literal sense, but in what they carry. They absorb years of wear and stress, and if you never release that tension, it accumulates until it starts affecting everything: circulation, balance, energy, even mood. That's why these problems show up after 60. Not because you're falling apart, but because the body finally stops compensating. It's like a dam that's held up for years finally showing its cracks, and if we ignore it, those cracks widen. But here's the hopeful part. Once we understand why this happens, we can finally start to reverse it. Stretching the hips isn't just a mobility trick, it's an act of circulation, of detox, of self-respect. It tells your body, I see you. I'm not ignoring the signs anymore. Let me ask you this. Have you noticed how it's harder to stand up after sitting too long? Do you find yourself leaning on counters more? Struggling to tie your shoes without groaning? These aren't just random aging symptoms. They're clues, whispers from your body that circulation isn't what it used to be, that the flow has slowed. And the good news? Flow can be restored. When you open the hips, you open the gate. Blood flows more freely. Nerves fire more cleanly. Your digestion, your balance, your strength, they all benefit. I remember one man telling me, Doc, I feel 5 years younger, just from bending better. He wasn't exaggerating, because movement is youth, circulation is youth, and the hips are the key to both. So no, this isn't just about being flexible, it's about getting your life force moving again. In the next section, I'll show you what happens if you ignore this. Because while this might start as a stiffness, it rarely ends there. Now, let's talk about the part nobody likes to think about, but everyone needs to hear. What happens if you don't open that gate? If you just keep ignoring the hips, letting them tighten and shut down slowly, year after year? Let me tell you, I've seen that road too many times, and it doesn't lead to a place you want to go. At first, it's subtle. You feel a bit slower getting out of bed, a little unsteady in the shower. You might start taking more breaks during a walk, blaming your shoes or the weather. But in truth, it's your circulation stalling out, your joints stiffening, your nerves struggling to fire. Then comes the real cost. Your legs weaken, balance fades. That independence you've taken for granted, driving, walking the dog, going fishing with your grandson, starts to feel risky. I've had patients who stopped doing the things they loved, not because they wanted to, but because their body quietly told them don't. And that's not all. Let's talk about what tight hips do to your internal health. Poor circulation to the lower body means your cells aren't getting the oxygen they need. It affects digestion, blood sugar, immune response, even your brain. Yes, your brain. Because when your lower body isn't moving well, your nervous system shifts into conserve mode. Less energy, slower reflexes, brain fog, memory slips. I've seen men look 10 years older simply because their blood wasn't flowing right. Let me give you a name: Larry. Larry was 68 when I met him, ex-Marine, proud guy, still wore his boots every day, but he'd stopped going to the gym, said he didn't have the energy, couldn't focus at work anymore. Felt dull, in his words. Turned out he'd developed pelvic congestion from sitting long hours and never stretching. His hips were practically frozen. We started a simple protocol, just 5 minutes a day, to open the hips, restore movement, and get his blood pumping. 2 months later, he was back in the gym, not lifting heavy, but moving again. And the sparkle in his eyes? That was the real win. Because here's the truth. Once your body starts shutting down, it's not always loud. It doesn't send a memo, it just fades. Until one day, you realize you're only living at half capacity. And if you let that go too long, it invites more serious problems: chronic inflammation, neuropathy, even mobility loss. The saddest part? Most of it is preventable, and often reversible. But it starts with awareness, with understanding that tight hips aren't just about flexibility, they're a health signal, a warning light, a whisper from your body saying, "Please, move me." So let me ask you, have you ever wondered why you feel more tired after a long day of sitting? Why your legs feel heavier with each passing year, even though you haven't changed much in your routine? It's not because you're broken. It's not just age. It's because flow blood, energy, motion has slowed down. And what's life without flow? Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just makes the consequences show up more forcefully later, and when it's harder to fight back. But here's the good news. Your body is always willing to work with you, even at 60, 70 or beyond. It just needs a little nudge, a little space. And sometimes, that starts with a hip stretch. In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to fix or improve this. No medication, no fancy equipment, just a return to something your body has been waiting for, movement that unlocks life. So, we've talked about what's going wrong. We've talked about why it starts happening after 60, and we've seen what can happen if we ignore it. Now let's talk about what we can actually do about it. Because here's the truth. Your body isn't giving up on you. It's simply waiting for you to give it what it needs. And sometimes, what it needs isn't more pills or more test sits, more space. Space for your blood to flow, space for your nerves to fire, space for your muscles to breathe again. And the good news? That kind of space can be created in just 5 minutes a day. Let me walk you through a simple routine I've given to dozens, maybe even hundreds of older men who came to me with stiffness, fatigue, poor circulation, and that heavy slowing down feeling they couldn't quite explain. I call it the hip opener sequence, and no, it's not yoga. You don't need to twist yourself into a pretzel or get down on a mat if you can't. It's about gentle activation and release. Here's how it works. 1. Start seated. Sit on a firm chair, back straight, feet flat on the floor. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your body settle. Then, gently place your right ankle over your left knee like a figure 4. If you can't reach that far, no worries. Just lift your legs slightly and support it with your hands. 2. Lean forward gently. With a straight spine, hinge at the hips and lean slightly forward. You should feel a stretch deep in your right hip. Not pain, just a gentle pull. Hold for 30-60 seconds, then switch legs. 3. Standing marches. Stand tall. Slowly raise one knee toward your chest. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower it back down. Alternate legs for 1 minute. This wakes up the hip flexors and restarts circulation in the lower body. 4. Hip circles. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, hands on your hips. Make slow, wide circles with your hips, 10 in one direction, then 10 the other. This helps loosen the fascia and improve lymphatic drainage. 5. Breathe into it. This last step is the most overlooked intentional breath. As you do any of these movements, breathe slowly and deeply into your belly. It sends a message to your nervous system. You're safe. You're waking up. The whole routine takes less than 5 minutes. But what it does? It tells your hips, I remember you. I need you. It reclaims mobility. It sends fresh blood to muscles and nerves that have been asleep. It opens the gates. Now, will it turn you into a 25-year-old again? Of course not. But I've seen men regain their morning energy. I've seen them walk longer without pain, sleep better, think clearer, all because they gave their body that one missing piece, movement with intention. The funny thing is, most men wait until something breaks before they start stretching. A fall, a scare, a diagnosis. But what if you flipped the script? What if, instead of reacting to damage, you moved now proactively with care? I'll share something personal. A few years back, I went through a hard patch, long hours at the clinic, no time for myself, my own hips tightened up, I stopped hiking, started feeling sluggish. My wife noticed before I did. So I started doing my own routine, 5 minutes, just like I told my patients, and slowly, the fog lifted. I felt like me again. This isn't about becoming flexible for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming the body you still live in. Let me ask you, if 5 minutes a day could help you feel more alive, would you take them? Because here's what I've learned after all these years. Most men don't need to do more. They just need to move better. And often, that better movement starts with the hips. Next, we'll wrap this up, and I'll leave you with the key takeaway I hope stays with you long after the video ends. So here we are. We've traveled from confusion to clarity, from that quiet fatigue so many men feel after 60 to understanding the hips as a kind of forgotten command center. We've looked at the hidden reasons behind poor circulation, slowed energy, stiffness, and most importantly, we've talked about what you can do about it. But now, I want to leave you with something deeper than a checklist. A mindset. Because the real medicine? It's not just the stretch. It's not even the science. It's the shift in how you see your body. Most men over 60 think their decline is inevitable, like it's written in some scripts they can't change. But let me tell you, after 39 years in medicine, I've seen too many men bounce back to believe that lie. The truth? Your body isn't broken. It's just waiting to be used the way it was designed. It's like a garden left untended. The soil is still rich. The roots are still alive. But it needs attention. It needs motion. It needs breath. Your hips, your circulation, your strength, these aren't things you lose forever. They're like a campfire. All it takes is a little spark, and the flame returns. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to chase youth. You just need to move with care and do it consistently. I've seen men in their 70s and 80s regain the glide in their walk. I've seen them stand taller, breathe deeper, sleep better. I've seen them laugh again, because when your body feels alive, your spirit comes alive too. So what's the big takeaway? Here it is. You are not deteriorating. You are simply deactivated. And activation starts with awareness. Remember, blood is life. Hormones are messengers. Nerves are your spark. When circulation flows, hormones balance. When hormones balance, nerves fire. When nerves fire, you remember who you are again. That all starts with one movement. 5 minutes. A stretch. A breath. Maybe this isn't the kind of health advice you're used to. No dramatic promises. No miracle pills. But maybe that's exactly why it works. So, as you walk away from this video, ask yourself, what if I started today? What if I gave myself those 5 minutes, not as a chore, but as a gift? Because your body, it's been waiting. Let it move, let it flow, let it wake back up. And if this message speaks to you, if you know a brother, a father, a friend who needs to hear it, share it. Talk about it. Try it together. And then, come back and tell me what you noticed. I'd love to hear your story. Because this isn't just about hips. It's about hope. And trust me, you're never too old to stretch into a better life. So, if you've been waking up stiff, feeling heavy in your legs, or wondering where your energy has gone, it may not be age. It might just be your hips quietly asking for help. And the beauty is, the answer isn't complicated. It's 5 minutes, one stretch, every day. To bring back flow, to feel light again, to remind your body that movement is still yours. Now imagine this: more energy in the morning, steadier steps throughout the day, and a stronger sense of self without needing pills, doctors, or another diagnosis. You don't have to fix everything at once. Just give yourself this one simple act of care. And if you found this helpful, if you know a man who might need to hear this, share this message. Let's start a quiet revolution, one stretch at a time. And hey, if you'd like more calm, clear, practical insights like this, subscribe to my channel, Sit Here with Teenager. It's a place where wisdom meets real-world advice, where we talk about the things most people overlook, but your body never forgets. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment if this spoke to you, and share it with someone you care about. Because you deserve to move, to breathe, to feel alive again. And I'll be right here, every step of the way.